All right, we are going live. Wow, right off the bat, thanks for the like. Um, Boy, I've got some big news, and we're going to talk about this situation here at the White House. Congressman, holy crap, Ron Paul has been censored. Now, is he part of the pedophilia? Uh, People are telling me yes, he is. I'm trying to get this right, folks. So just give me a moment so y'all can see everything. For the subscribers, thanks for the likes. Thanks for the shares. I noticed. And Rachel, you don't have to give me $1,000, but I really appreciate it. Thank you. All right. I already got one like. Ain't even started yet. All right, folks. And we got some hurricane news, earthquake news, volcano news. Unbelievable. Hold on. Let's read this message that come from none other than Dutch's NWO. Dutch Sense has been saying the same thing about California as well. No, he hasn't. No, he hasn't. He's been saying that there's earthquakes. He's not even saying they're bombs. I'm saying bombs and missiles and the rod of God. But you keep on thinking that earthquakes, okay? Because I'm going to keep on thinking realistic here. Period. All right. We just got here. Thanks for the like and whoever's joined us. We got a bunch of news coming out of Pacific West. I told you all hell was going to break loose for Hawaii and California, and it has. John, we got Hurricane Hector. It's turning into a Category 5. Then we got Christy right behind that one. And it's not Chris Christie. This is a Christie, a girl Christie, like my cousin Christie. And then you got John, Hurricane John Cena, John. And then you got Hurricane Elena. Wow. I told you we were going to be at a hurricane force. I said 20 hurricanes, and we're already at 11 hurricanes this year. So, closing in on the record will be 17 hurricanes from last year. That'll be, what, 6 more to go? And the Gulf has not even got anything yet because the dust has not settled in the Gulf yet. That's the hurricane crusher, folks. The dust storm that's been coming from Africa all the way through. It just went around everybody. It went around Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, and it's hitting Mexico and it's hitting California. Weird. Arizona's getting 2. Thanks for the 2 likes. But without further ado, we're going to start the tournament. And if you noticed, I created news and tournament we got here. What kind of news? I just said it. It's on the bottom of the screen. We got a bunch of news. Ron Paul being censored. Congressman. On Twitter. We're going to talk about Alex Jones. This is clickbait. With him. Which clickbait to me, I just watched the video. Everybody else is recording his stuff and putting it on their channel to keep him going. I just found that out. Yes, he's paying people to keep him on other channels. That was coming, I was aware. Okay. Man, I ain't getting hit hard. Rachel just said this to me. And by the way, I don't know if you know this, but I woke up this morning with an awesome text, and I'm gonna read it to y'all. Oh my goodness, you put all those subs to me. I woke up and saw the number. I was shocked in a very happy way. You are a wonderful friend. I hope we can all meet up someday. Have fun. Thank you so much. She says, I'm sending you $1,000. I had to delete your comment. I was just called out by one of my bully haters that I bought subs. Man, these haters are on my ass. Please let us talk on phone or text. I do appreciate what you did. Very sweet. Well, it's easy. All you have to do is you send out your videos and your YouTube channel on my Facebook. I've got over 1,000 friends, and I got people that I work with, and I got people that's how can you say it? I got friends. I got friends in low places, and they subscribe to you too. It wasn't just me. Yes, I did subscribe to you 90 times, but it's not cheating. It's there, and if it's there, it's there. I've got more than one device that I'm using, and you can do that. All you have to do is use emails. That's about it. Bottom line. It's not cheating, and whoever said that, tell them to jump in the lake. And this is what she just said to me again. Hey, it was a downpour here. I had walked down the block to visit my friends. She married to a cop and supports Trump. Kim is cool. No likely Trump. What's a good time to talk? Tomorrow I have 3:30 appointment for my therapist till 4:30. I need to feed cats, dogs, and start dinner. Now you are so crazy giving me all those subs. Was that legal? Yes, it was legal. Hope you got some rest. You're always making videos. I'm not gonna stop. I'm under the radar, and I'm like a fighter jet going into the ocean and staying off the radar. And that's what's happening right now. Nobody's smart enough to go to a congressman and start hitting him. We never seen any video. That's the thing. If you don't have video of what's going on, then it didn't really happen. Okay? That's all I can say. Thanks for the 3 likes. We're going to start the tournament. By the way, I created Devon Dudley. I created Doink the Clown. Don Morocco from WWF. And Drago from Impact Wrestling. And I created the Ring of Honor World Television Championship. If you did not know, CM Punk is going to join the WWE Ring of Honor crew. If you did not know, WWE bought out Ring of Honor. And yeah. And I don't know what to say about Brock Lesnar wanting to run both. I think it's going to ruin the both shows. If they go to UFC and WWE, I don't want to see it. And if you don't fix it to Undertaker versus Sting, I'm not getting the pay-per-view, Vince. And that's all I can say. I'm tired of seeing John Cena and Undertaker. That was the worst match I've ever seen at WrestleMania. That was awful. That was like watching paint dry. I mean, it was awful. Seriously. I'd rather seen, Ronda Rousey beat the hell out of John Cena. Because she can do it better than any man. But just keep on. I've got a lot of work to do, and we're going to go to this. Did Donald Trump shut down? You got to remember, Donald Trump and his Twitter account still going. So if you can see it now, it looks like Trump did this to Ron Paul. And it would not surprise me if this was another political bullcrap story. Thanks for the 3 likes, though. Seriously. But y'all, we're going. We're gonna start. We know how long it took last time, right? Good grief. Where's the hold on, before we start. There it is. Hope y'all having a good day on this Tuesday. We're heading to the 5th tournament of the last tournament of 2018. We're rolling. We're in the D's now. The B and the D's of the creations. All right, let's go. It's glorious, right? Jesus Christ. And if you ain't down with that, well, I'm sorry. Yeah, a lot of stuff is happening right now, folks. Y'all don't understand. If I think this is a trap of what's going on with that situation with Alex Jones. I think that is a trap to make you think that you're censored. Like I said, I haven't really got a lot of details on it, but I did tell you October the 1st, 2016, ICANN gave the internet to, Obama gave the internet to ICANN. That would be EU. That would be George Soros. And if you haven't seen the thumbnail, that is George Soros is the puppet master to the football players that's doing the kneeling down. George Soros, just found this out, George Soros paid the NFL players money to do that. So you either can jump on the bandwagon with George Soros, Adolf Hitler's family, or you can join the freedom fighters, because I'm going to keep on fighting for our freedom for my grandfather and for y'all, because when your freedom is gone, guys, it's going to be like you in a library and the librarian telling you to shut up. I'm just telling you right now. You keep on listening to Donald Trump, and you keep on listening to Obama and George Soros, which they're all together, you will lose your freedom, and you will lose you putting whatever you want to put on your Facebook is already happening. Twitter, it's already happening. We just seen it with Ron Paul. And our family and my friends and my ex is just sitting there like, oh, well, I don't care. That happened to me yet. But it will. It will. You showing your pictures of cutting your finger or with blood, it's going to be censored by the FCC very, very soon. I just want you to know that, folks. I want you to wake up, smell the coffee. Because if you don't fight for your freedom, then why in the world did the military fight for you? How about that? How about that? All right, let's keep on going. Let's go to this Twitter suspends Ron Paul right here.
US sanctions against Iran, which have just come into force, have seen oil prices spike, with analysts predicting that trend will continue. And with the US preparing yet more sanctions, the EU, Iran's second largest trading partner, has shown that it's ready to protect European companies doing business with Tehran.
Oh yeah, by the way, the sanctions is jacking up gas prices on purpose, so you will, like I said the other day, they're going to put you into an electric car. You're going to be driving the Knight Rider one day, and you're going to wish you listened to me. I'm just telling you right now, your cars are about to be oilless and gasless on purpose. It's on purpose, folks. All these sanctions that Trump is doing is to make you pay more money. Obama make you pay more money. They're all together, folks. I want you to remember that. Let's keep on. Iran can go jump in a freaking lake and sink.
We are determined to protect European economic operators engaged in legitimate business with Iran. This is why the European Union's updated blocking statute enters into force on the 7th of August to protect EU companies doing legitimate business with Iran from the impact of US extraterritorial sanctions. We believe that it is, and it has to be, up to the Europeans in this case to decide with whom to trade.
The first round of sanctions prohibits Iran from using the US dollar and restricts trading in precious metals. It also includes limiting Iranian currency flows as well as constraints on the car trade. Okay, let's discuss this story and several others now. My guest is former US Congressman Ron Paul. Good to have you on, Ron. Let's start with this issue then of sanctions. The EU is insisting that it will back EU firms that are dealing with Iran. Is this going to cause a widening rift between the US and the EU?
Well, I would think so. There's a big question there. I can't imagine it not already having done that, but so far, there's been a lot of bluster. And I think one problem is that the United States is still pretty powerful. They have the currency for the reserve currency of the world, powerful currency, powerful military, a lot of wealth, and we can throw our weight around. So even if the Europeans feel put upon and attacked by these sanctions that we put on Iran, I think they need to get some backbone, but my big beef about all this is I just don't like sanctions because it leads to problems like this, and that's really where the problem is. And right now, I don't know whether the Europeans will stick to their guns, because what if they get threatened? Some of these big companies may be threatened and they lose some business with the United States. But eventually there will be competition, and that day will come. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but that day will come where the United States will have the competition. And right now, that's why there's talk about others having, other currencies to deal with as a reserve currency. China, Russia, different countries would like to do that. So we have to wait and see what happens. But I don't like dictatorial powers. I don't like sanctions. I think that leads to currency wars. They've already started. And unfortunately, those kind of conditions sometimes can lead to a lot more and into some very hot wars as well.
You said that sanctions can lead to a lot more. Where are they going to lead? What do you think this will take us into?
Well, I think first we'll see shortly whether the Europeans stick to their guns. If they back down, then they're going to be around for a while. But if they stick to their guns, I think the United States would have to adjust their policies a bit, because how are they going to enforce that? If China and Russia and other countries and India, they do business with Iran, well, how are we going to punish them? We've already been doing a lot of that. What are we going to do? Put more sanctions on Russia? We continue to do that, but eventually that runs out of steam. But the one thing that I hope we can call attention to is the fact that this doesn't always end well, ends badly, and long term.
Hey Ron, let me help you out. Sanctions is like putting a person in a corner or a kid in the corner. You're not doing nothing. When you keep on putting sanctions on every country, they're going to come at you. So keep on doing what you're doing, 9/11 plot, because that's what I see. Another 9/11 plot. Just like in Pacific West. Just like Hawaii. Just like California. Let's keep on. Keep on, dumbass. Keep on. You'll keep on bullying all the countries, and they're going to beat your ass. And guess what? The Americans are going to turn on you, and they're going to help the other countries. If you smell what I'm cooking.
Sometimes it lasts a long time. I think of how long we've had sanctions and with Cuba, and it lasts a long time when you're powerful. But this is a lot bigger than having our sanctions on Cuba. This is a big deal, and I think in time people are going to realize that we might have to adjust because the other countries are going to not tolerate what we have done.
You think?
Now, as I understand, there's still not been any proof presented publicly.
You think, Ron Paul? You think? I mean, you're doing it to Cuba. You're doing it to all the countries. You dumb asses. It's about fucking time you woke up.
Publicly at least, of the Russian attacks on US democracy that we used to justify the new sanctions bill. How does that work? How is it being perceived back home?
Well, you know, the warmongers, the people who want sanctions and everything that Russia does is bad, they're really in charge with our media, and they have really basic control, you know, in the Congress. Now, the president basically has been more sympathetic, but imagine the pressure is getting to him so that he sort of comes across as on again, off again. But I think it's tragic what's happening because they have no proof of anything. And for some reason, these senators that have come up with this new bill, you know, Graham and McCain and Menendez, I mean, just out of the clear blue, they have no evidence whatsoever of their charges that they have made. And, you know, I look at the world like none of us are perfect. All the countries have their shortcomings. But I think the responsibility for shortcomings should be their own country. So we come up short in many ways. I think that my job is to try to point that out so that we can change policy. But this idea of just blaming other countries and it's all somebody else's fault and what we have to do is put on sanctions, and then when they retaliate, we think, oh, the world's coming to an end. They don't have a right to do that. We have to punish them. I think it's a very, very bad foreign policy. And of course, I, as a libertarian over the years in Congress, I advocated a non-interventionist foreign policy. I just think we should be out of this business. And if you want to talk with people, fine, talk with people and work with people. So I liked it, you know, when Trump and Putin would talk, and I was sorry when the invitation for Putin was removed. I think talking is good. I was in the military in 1963, and I was glad that Kennedy talked to Khrushchev. We need to talk to each other, and that means by talking to each other, you ought to just get rid of all the sanctions and not pretend that we can run the world the way.
Well, they talked after he talked to whoever he talked to. Kennedy got killed. Well, they say it was a fake death. The bullet went past him, and they put like background stuff on the blood that was coming off the head.
We have.
Well, you say talking is good. I think it might depend on what's said. Let's chat, if we may, about Twitter's new war on hate speech. As I understand, several libertarian figures have fallen victim of that. Where are we going with this, Ron?
Well, that's a good question because that is a real mixed bag. The social media, in one sense, is a real delight. There's a lot of information out there. I have benefited by it. But it originated with a lot of government assistance, and the biggest role that social networks play is working with the government and giving the government the information. They do the work for the NSA. So it's a mixed bag. They call themselves private companies. The libertarians say, we don't regulate private companies, and yet it's so mixed. So I hope, the only thing I can hope for under these conditions is that maybe you know, the market will devise something that can become an alternative. But when you look at the strength and the power and the regulation of speech, and indirectly we're talking about the government, and the reason that I think happens is that you get accused of treasonous activity and treasonous speech, and because in an empire, treason is in an empire lies, the truth is treason. So when people blurt out the treason on the internet, it's not like they're saying something mean and ugly. It's the things challenging the status quo is what they can't stand, and it unnerves them. So they have to silence people. So it's more likely for an individual like myself to be silenced because I represent a challenge to the status quo. But if anybody understands our First Amendment, the First Amendment isn't there to talk about the weather. The First Amendment is there for us to be able to challenge our government. But if we do that now, whether it's direct regulation from the government or indirectly through social media, we have a real challenge. I'm just hoping that technology can stay ahead of it all and that we can have alternatives to the dependency on Twitter and these other companies that have been working hand in glove with the government.
Well, some critics are saying that these new policies of Twitter expose it as being a project of the Democratic Party. Do you think there's any truth to that?
Yeah, well, overall, I think the parties are a farce. Our policies don't change from Republicans to Democrats. They all love big spending. They like regulations. They like the NSA, the TSA. They like the Federal Reserve. They like printing money. They don't care about deficit. But when it comes to power, there's a big struggle. Who gets to pull the switches and pass out the money? Then they fight and fume. So there is this partisan fight that goes on. And obviously, we've heard about this. It amazes me that the only thing that comes of it is that there's charges against Russia for taking control of our elections, and it's all about Trump, and yet it hasn't been looked at carefully enough that maybe the other side had an axe to grind too, and the Democrats were probably more involved than the Republicans. But I think all of that is just a mess.
I'll be damned, Ron. You telling the truth finally. The Democrats did have something to do with it. Actually, they all did have something to do with it. For the last 40 years, there have been Russian spies. Every president in the last 40 years has been Russian spies. Thank you, Ron Paul. Let's keep on.
And I think if the world were put together more on a libertarian viewpoint, there wouldn't be this need, and there wouldn't be this, contest with each other. But it is pretty vicious, is the way I see it, and it goes now into our universities, on the streets, and people are getting angry and upset, and there just shouldn't be any reason for that. But it's the fact that if some of us, tell the truth about our government, they call us treasonous and that we're speaking out of line, and they would like to punish us. And I think that's part of what's happening with the social media.
Ron, you'll always be welcome to speak freely here on RT. Many thanks for your time. A pleasure to speak to you once again. Ron Paul, my guest, former US Congressman.
How about that? RT does not let you stop speaking because of what you have to say. They're trying to take our freedom, folks. I've been warning you and been warning you and been warning you, and nobody wants to listen. Well, the YouTube channels are getting it, and I told the NASCAR online drivers the same thing. Shut up, start respecting each other, or they're going to kick you off, or they're going to censor you, and that's what they did. They're shutting you down. So, we're not done. We got a lot of work to do. More news coming out today, and it's blowing me away right now. Here we go. News on Alex Jones. It's next. And then the final warning of Yellowstone. Update now on Yellowstone. And Alex Jones statement. And then unusual 4 hurricanes in the West Coast lining up like they're military. Which the geostorming is the government's deal. They make hurricanes and storms and rain and makes the sun go crazy and everything else, and that's what they're doing. And we're gonna keep on talking about it. What's next? There it is. YouTube did it.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? Book298 coming at you live once again through the power of the internet. And if you've been paying attention to the news today or social media, you may have heard that a YouTube pundit by the name of Alex Jones, who has a far-right conspiracy show that kind of acts like a cult to sell people supplements and stuff like that, has been...
Wait a minute. Don't ever say it's a conspiracy, because every time you say it's conspiracy, that's Clinton and that's Podesta's and that is Trump and all them. You call it something else. But if you say conspiracy, you're a pedophile. I thought you might want to know that. Go look it up. It's in the dictionary.
Banned from YouTube, as well as Facebook and Apple and pretty much most of the other major publishing places that you can publish your stuff on the internet. Now, there's plenty of people out there who want to defend Alex Jones, and there's plenty of people out there who want to attack Alex Jones. As usual, I don't want to do either of those things here. I just want to take a critical look at the situation and talk about the ins and out of it, and maybe educate you and educate myself about the situation we find ourselves in when it comes to stuff like this. But let me start this by saying one piece of opinion here. I don't care about Alex Jones. I really don't. I don't think about him very much. I don't like what he has to say, especially when he's talking about crisis actors and all these conspiracy theories and the Second Civil War and all of that.
Okay, you keep on saying conspiracy theory again. I'm going to kick you off because conspiracy is a government word and they're pedophiles. Let's keep on.
Really
and if you are messaging me, because every time y'all say something, you get blocked and kicked off. I don't know how many people got kicked off the other day, but they did. They got blocked, kicked, and deleted for saying the stupid stuff online. And YouTube is monitoring everything. So shut up, know your role, and watch what we're doing. And listen to what we're doing. This hate speech crap, go somewhere else with it. I'm trying to save you and save your freedom. I could care less what your stupidity crap is saying right now.
Crazy stuff. Sometimes I find it entertaining because of how stupid and absurd it is, but I can also understand where it does some damage. But I just spend very, very little time thinking about Alex Jones. He's just one of those things I don't even bother with. But I do think it is worthy of talking about the situation where he got banned from the website for the things that he says and the things that he does. I think it's worth talking about the topic almost exclusively because 4 corporations got together and all in 1 week decided to pretty much remove them from their self-publishing platforms. Now, the first thing I've seen is a lot of people saying this means Alex Jones is banned from the internet. He can't use the internet anymore, and that's very far from the truth. All he's got to do is find an internet service provider who's willing to host his website for him, and he can put his podcasts up on that. He can put his videos up on that. He can pay for the hosting fees. He can pay for all of that. He can pay for his own website. He can choose to do that. What he's banned for is a bunch of services like the iTunes store, like the Facebook distribution system, like the YouTube distribution system. He's just not allowed to use those anymore because they don't want him on his platform. And I've seen plenty of people saying, hooray, good, let's shut him down entirely, let's get him entirely off the internet. It's pretty much impossible with a free and open internet that's protected by net neutrality. There's no way you can get rid of Alex Jones. He'll always be able to host his own website. He'll always be able to find a host that's willing to publish it for him. He'll always be able to put it out there in the world. If you think this is the end of Alex Jones, you are very, very wrong. And if you see the people that are defending him today, they are vehement about defending him. Wherever he is able to distribute moving forward, they will flock to it. They will support him. They will buy his supplements and feed their inner gladiator the way he called for them to do. That's literally what he said. If you're worried about this, buy my supplements so that you can feed your inner gladiator. What a weird response, but the guy's a weird guy. But I personally think it's a really good thing that even though I vehemently disagree with 98% of the things that Alex Jones says, and I do believe he is a very harmful person, I will go as far as to say that it's a very good thing that you can't get rid of him completely. That's the point of the internet. That's the point of a free and open internet. That's the point of net neutrality. You know, if we got rid of net neutrality, then it's the ISPs who could choose to ban him next. Comcast could refuse to serve his videos or his website to you at all, AT&T, Verizon, and so on and so forth. Fortunately, they probably won't do that right now because they're still up in the air about net neutrality, so they're probably not going to shut them down just yet. Get rid of net neutrality, it's entirely possible they will, though. But here's the thing when it comes to YouTube and the iTunes store and Facebook, these are publishing companies. The same way if I tried to write a book and I decided to take it to Clearinghouse or one of these publishing companies and try to get them to publish it for me, YouTube does the exact same thing. And they don't like to refer to themselves as publishers, but that's what they do. They take the thing that Alex Jones has created, they then pay for the distribution, they pay for the printing, they pay for the hosting, they pay for the data in the hopes that they can place advertisements on it and make that money back. And they share the profits with you. And so just like any other publisher in the world, whether it comes to a video game company like Steam or iTunes or you, they get to pick and choose who they allow on their platform, who they are going to profit off of, and who they're going to allow to profit off of them. It's very different from paying an ISP a flat fee and getting them to just host you, because YouTube has to profit off of what you're doing or they take a loss. And Alex Jones was definitely definitely costing YouTube a big loss at this point. YouTube is a company that has had advertisers very, very mad at them for a very, very long period of time. And they were taking these Alex Jones videos, which were very, very unpopular to advertisers and to a lot of media companies and to a lot of viewers, and they were distributing them without monetizing them, without putting advertisements on them. It was a pure loss factor for them. And then on top of that, they were also upsetting advertisers who didn't want to advertise on the same platform that Alex Jones was on. So if, as a corporate decision, this makes all the sense in the world. Get rid of a very unpopular guy who's costing you a lot of money. Stop publishing his stuff to make advertisers happy so that they'll come back and advertise on your platform and make everybody else that's still on your platform rich. It makes a lot of sense, and this is not out of character for YouTube at all. YouTube demonetizes everything. They are so careful. They will demonetize guns in video games. They will demonetize LGBTQ videos. They will demonetize just about anything that they think will upset Coca-Cola or Pepsi-Cola, and we creators have to deal with that every day. It doesn't matter if you're left, it doesn't matter if you're right, it doesn't matter if you're down the middle like me, it really doesn't matter. YouTube is absolutely going to demonetize you all the time. They're going to strike you all the time. They're going to remove your videos all the time. They ban channels for some of the stupidest, simplest stuff all the time. So the fact that it finally happened to a high-profile case like Alex Jones should be no surprise to anybody. Specifically, if you look at their statement, it says this account has been terminated for violating YouTube's community guidelines. Specifically, the service prohibits hate speech, and Jones has been spewing invective for years. He falsely claimed parents of children killed in the Sandy Hook school shooting were crisis actors. They promoted the Pizzagate conspiracy theory, that there was a child sex slave. I can't even say these words on YouTube. Read it for yourself. But last week, Jones mimed shootings.
Well, some of it that he does say is true. But I'm upset with him because he's not talking about what's going on with the weather, how the 9/11 plot is happening, and everything else. That's why I'm upset with him, because he's one of them. And they're going to use Alex Jones as a guinea pig. And that's what's happening right now. Alex Jones is not going anywhere. Everybody else thinks he's going somewhere, but like he just said, he's not going anywhere. It's just showing you they're trying to tell you to shut up. And if you don't, they're going to shut your channel down. Alex Jones won't go anywhere. It will be the small channels.
Special counsel Robert Mueller. Yeah, that's going to get you banned, Alex. That's definitely going to get you banned. Now, here's the thing. As a proponent of free speech, I think it kind of sucks that it's getting more and more difficult to get these companies to publish your work, but I also understand why YouTube chose to do this. In fact, to be honest with you, I think they gave him a lot of special treatment and let him go for a lot longer than they probably even should have, because they are certainly holding him to a double standard. They were holding me or anybody else. He got away with a lot more crap than anybody else. And as a proponent of free speech, I'm glad that we have an internet where Alex Jones can create his own website and distribute his own podcast and distribute his own stuff directly to you.
It's awful,
because
man.
Neutrality, AT&T, Comcast, and those other companies can't keep that from
camera's
happening.
Awful today, folks. I'm very sorry.
I'm also kind of grateful that YouTube chose to step up and punish people accordingly for breaking the rules, because Lord knows they punish me for barely breaking them all the time. But that's just one man's opinion, and I could be wrong. I know you'll let me know in the comments section below if I am. I'm curious as to what you think about the situation. I try to take a very neutral, down-the-road, middle look at it, even though you can kind of tell I lean in one direction on this one. But I'm curious as to how you guys lean. Do you lean left, right, straight down the middle? Do you not really care? Is this not even on your radar?
I'm not doing the best I can right now.
Thanks for watching. I love you very much, and don't forget that the sun doesn't exist. Now buy my penis pills.
Okay, dokie. Did he just say he wanted you to buy his penis bill? Alrighty. Alright, breaking news, final warning on Yellowstone. And yes, we have to hear parts of Paul Begley with his "Are You Serious" crap. But, yeah. Let's go with this one. Okay.
Yellowstone super volcano ready to blow. Well, that's exactly what we're hearing.
reports now amid the growing swarm of earthquakes. Now over 1,000 earthquakes in the last month at Yellowstone National Park. Now we know there was a 4.6 earthquake that hit right there at the in the center of it, right there where the super volcano is, about a month ago. And then we just had 5.8 earthquake hit Lincoln, Montana, which is all part of the danger zone. Okay, we just had that this week. So Montana's largest earthquake ever. Scientists are now growing increasingly concerned that the so-called super volcano at the heart of Yellowstone National Park could be building toward a Category 7 eruption. So what is a super volcano, you may ask? What does this explosion mean for life on planet Earth? Well,
32 states.
I can tell you, it would be catastrophic. It'd be cataclysmic, apocalyptic, of a biblical proportion. There's no question about it. It would pretty well put an end to life, for the most part, in North and Central and South America, our side of the hemisphere. Is this thing going to blow before Jesus returns? I don't know. Could it be a part of the effects of the gravitational pull that we may be going to experience on this planet from Planet X or Nibiru when it comes closer?
Planet Wormwood. See, I told you Paul Bagley changed. He used to say Wormwood, now he's saying Nibiru and Planet X. See, he's turning to them. He's turned into one of them, guys.
This binary system that's pulling up, seemingly something shaking the heavens and could be trying to pull the earth apart. We're breaking records in volcanoes, breaking records in earthquakes, breaking records in sinkholes. We're having all kinds of extreme weather conditions, global changes that are taking place that are affecting mudslides, landslides, flash flooding, all kinds of thunderbolts of lightning, and we're just witnessing one event after another. The sun is hotter than it's ever been before. The radiation levels in California in the last 2 years have went up 13%. In the Northeast, 19%. And the earth seems to be shaking and quaking. It's almost like the wobbling on the poles. And so we're watching all of these apocalypse.
Hold on. The earth is shaking. The earth is baking. And the devil's back is breaking.
Signs, realizing that every bit of it is leading us ever so closer to the coming of the Lord Jesus Christ. And now we're in a heat wave. It's almost like a heat dome that has brought unbelievable suffering in Iran. It hit 129.2 degrees Fahrenheit with a heat index of a record 162 degrees. You could fry an egg. Oh, no. You could fry an omelet and the bacon and maybe even, I don't know what all. I mean, are you serious? This is unbelievably hot. And it's happening in Southern California. 10,000 cattle have died from the excessive heat. Oh, and what about Nevada? And 119 degrees in Las Vegas, and 120 degrees in Tucson, Arizona, and Mexico. It's cooking down there. Are you serious?
What did I say? We was going to have earthquakes, volcanoes, hurricanes, hailstorms, snowstorms. By the way, we had a hailstorm in Colorado that was baseball size. And then I said we was going to have a heat wave of 123 degrees in the United States. It's 129 in Iran, folks. You don't think the sun is getting pulled by CERN Switzerland? All we need to do is blow up CERN, Putin. Come on, listen to me, man. We got to save the world. That's why we're having all these volcanoes and earthquakes.
Yes, so we're looking and we're witnessing and we're understanding that the UV rays, the cosmic the gamma rays, all that's affecting the earth. You got to understand the magma's moving, and the molten magma, the lava, is all in the core of the earth, heating up from some type of intense gravitational pull that even scientists say that there's an 8% tilt. The entire universe we're in has tilted 8%. So, I mean, there's something biblical going on here with the signs of the second coming of Christ, and all of the apocalyptic events going on this planet are coinciding with the apocalyptic event. It's like whatever's going on in the spiritual world is manifesting in the physical. And there's signs in the heavens and on the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke. And the earth is going to soon have a solar eclipse of a biblical proportion where the sky will turn as dark as sackcloth of hair, as it says in the book of Joel. That's coming up August the 21st. 33 days later, we're going to have the great constellational alignment in the heavens. Has never happened before, nor will ever happen again, but is explained to you in detail from a prophecy that's 2,000 years old by the prophet John, the Apostle John, in the book of Revelation, chapter 12. It's all coming together. We're in the last days. You don't want to miss this program tonight. You really don't. We're going to break down all of these events that are going on around the world and try to help you understand just how close we are. Christ is knocking at the door, if you looked at it in a prophetic time frame. He's literally knocking on the door.
Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming are now closed to the public as a dangerous fissure has opened. Teton is a portion of the greater Yellowstone National Park, where North America's super volcano sits. Manila Chan is following this story, and from what I know of it, this goes beyond any natural disaster movie we've ever seen, potentially.
Well, what is scarier than real life, Holland? It's the height of tourist season, as you know, right now at Yellowstone National Park, so you can imagine a ton of disappointed visitors this week. But there's this 100-foot horizontal crack along a rock wall at Grand Teton. It emerged recently, and park officials fear it may be connected to the supervolcano located nearby. Now, Park Superintendent David Vela said this. He said, quote, "Human safety is our number one priority, and with an abundance of caution, we are temporarily closing this area until we can properly assess the situation." Experts say this fissure poses a number of dangers to humans in the area, fears it may continue to crack, possibly create a rock slide, just to name a few, due to the very active grounds there at Yellowstone. The national park sits on a very active magma chamber connected to that supervolcano. Now, the volcano, though, has not erupted in over 600,000 years, but they say if it did erupt, would result in a nuclear winter, blocking out sunlight and showering thousands of miles in volcanic ash. It would immediately kill about 87,000 people and render about 2/3 of the United States completely uninhabitable. Now, geologists across the globe are carefully monitoring this, as well as other volcanoes that have been erupting, with the recent eruptions in Hawaii, sending hundreds fleeing for safety there. Many Americans wonder if or when the next Mount St. Helens-style eruption may occur. A little bit of history for you. Mount St. Helens erupted in 1980 in Washington state. It sent ash and debris more than 80,000 feet up into the air and into the surrounding areas. That killed about 60 people. There were rock slides immediately, and later created the largest landslide ever recorded due to high-pressure gas and steam under the earth. Now, that eruption, it was preceded by a series of earthquakes for the next 2 months and numerous steam venting episodes all across that area. But fear not, scientists say that this crack or fissure may not be...
Hold on. Just to hold on. Emergency meeting here. Oh, okay. wasn't busy earlier, but I mean, because I talked a lot earlier, but it's cool.
A prelude to an eruption or mass extinction just yet. Now, Holland, they say cracks to rock face happen all the time with the tectonic plates shifting. Said that backwards. And park officials just need some time to conduct some risk assessment, make sure that it's okay for visitors to go back and, not be injured by possibly falling rocks. And the tourists should be back there hopefully pretty soon, Holland.
So glass half full, it hasn't happened in 600,000 years.
Yes.
Why would it happen now? Glass half empty. Maybe we're overdue.
We might be. The Earth has to do something with that pressure.
Swarm of earthquakes have hit Yellowstone National Park over the past week. The park is home to a massive supervolcano that could erupt at any time. So is the swarm warning us about a looming disaster. RT's Brigida Santos joins me live from Los Angeles with the details. So Brigida, how many earthquakes have hit Yellowstone this week?
Natasha, the U.S. Geological Survey has tallied up over 500 earthquakes in that area in the past week. Now, this swarm began on June 12th, and it is currently ongoing. Swarms are incredibly common in this area. In fact, they account for about 50% of all of the seismic activity in Yellowstone. And these are quakes that are ranging from 4.5 in magnitude to below zero. So I'm not sure whether there's much cause for concern right now. I do want to mention that this is a supervolcano with a thick continental crust that causes large buildups of magma, and it's capable of producing a magnitude 8 eruption on the volcanic explosivity index. That means the explosion could be 2,500 times larger than the Mount St. Helens eruption in 1980, which is regarded as the largest and most deadly eruption in U.S. history. Now, I spoke with somebody, a scientist that oversees this Yellowstone area from the U.S. Geological Survey. Take a listen to what he had to say.
Yellowstone is an active system. It's had enormous eruptions in the past. It's had a lot of smaller eruptions. When you have an enormous eruption, you automatically get called a super volcano because you've had a super eruption. But Yellowstone has lots of different kinds of eruptions. And so even if Yellowstone does erupt, chances are it's not going to be anything that's devastating in consequence.
So there you have it, Natasha. He's not sure that a super eruption will take place, but it is possible that an eruption on a smaller scale could take place there.
And what is the likelihood, Brigida, that Yellowstone supervolcano will erupt?
So this is a volcano that's erupted only 3 times in history. In fact, the first one was about 2 million years ago, followed by another one 1 million years ago, and most recently about 640,000 years ago. So it is due for an eruption based on that schedule. However, the scientists there did assure me that there's only about a 1 in 730,000 chance that we will see an eruption take place anytime soon.
0.4 earthquake has hit Yellowstone, Montana. Matter of fact, here we go. This has been the warning. Urgent warning. Sunday, earthquake possibilities. Now, good news is we've not had a mega quake of 6.0 or higher. We have had a 5.5 just a couple hours ago in the nation of Tonga, and it was very shallow, less than 10 kilometers. But Yellowstone National Park, right on that super volcano, we've had 3 earthquakes this afternoon. One was 3.0. It was less than 10 kilometers deep. The next one was 3.4. It was 3.4, and it was 10.1 kilometers deep. And then 2.8, that one was only 7.8 kilometers deep. 3 earthquakes this afternoon, all at Yellowstone National Park. And we just had a 4.9 moments ago in the Pacific Ocean. Now, there's been 30 earthquakes in the last 24 hours. But what I'm concerned about is this afternoon, 3 earthquakes, Yellowstone National Park, right on the super volcano, and a 5.5 in Tonga. Now, we know that, and a 4.9 in the South Pacific Ocean. Look, BP Earthwatch, who put out a great video 21 hours ago about the tremendous explosion, that burst of protons that came from the sun on Friday. I covered it. He covered it. He said yesterday, once he got a chance to read how fast the speed was, that it was Sunday that we were going to start to feel the impact. And here's the thing about it. According to spaceweather.com, this thing was it lasted this. This M2 class solar flare lasted for over 2 hours when it erupted on the sun, sending a burst, and I mean a burst of proton, and then, but it was a long CME, progression. Now, here's what's going on. The sun, all of a sudden this afternoon, has the speed of the solar winds on the sun went enormous. They went from 312 kilometers per second to 613.5 kilometers per second. That is a blazing speed for the solar winds. And CME strike sparks a geomagnetic storm. Listen to this. The geomagnetic, and I'm going to try to get this a little closer here. Again, this is happening really in real time. The geomagnetic storms are underway today following that CME strike that hit. Auroras have been sighted in New Zealand as well as the United States, such as Washington State and Wyoming. Why do you think they're feeling the pressure there at Yellowstone? The storms are intensifying as the Earth moves into the CME's magnetized wake. They are currently category G2, which is moderately strong for a geomagnetic storm. But that is one thing, because we have a weakened magnetosphere around the Earth. Because it's weakened. And don't ask me if CERN has anything to do with it. Has CERN caused the burn? I don't know. But this is very disturbing, very concerning for earthquakes. And as I said, this afternoon, ever since this has started to hit, we're just getting the start of it. So
yes, CERN is doing the burn. You're right. Well, you're wrong because you didn't want to say it, but I will. Yes, CERN is doing all this.
Looks like it's going to carry on into the night, into tomorrow. We're just getting inundated with this thing. It was a 2-hour solar burst from the sun. It's one of the longest solar flares we've seen in years. Not the biggest, but the longest in years, even though this is a solar minimum, even though the sunspot AR2665 was not supposed to be that big of a deal, but it got huge. Now the wind speeds are racing through the open hole, and the burst that we already received on Friday, but it released from the sun, we are feeling it right now. Warning, urgent warning, possible earthquakes anytime through this evening, into the night, into the early hour, and sometime into tomorrow. The next 24 hours, very, 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 very urgent. So we want you to stay awake on that. And already it is Yellowstone that is shaking and quaking. The devil's back is breaking. So tonight, don't miss Sunday Night Live. Starts at 7 p.m. Eastern. Are you serious? 7 p.m. Eastern at my website at www.paulbegleyprophecy.com. www.paulbegleyprophecy.com. The expert who will help us in this. Look, Dutch Sense is watching this close. Suspicious Observers watching this close. Mike around the world's watching this close. Pastor Paul Begley's watching this close. But BP Earthwatch is watching it very close and will be with us tonight live on Sunday Night Live. You don't want to miss it. This will be a powerful show, no doubt about it. And people are getting saved at unbelievable numbers as recently, and God is moving. I think folks understand the signs are in the heavens, and we're experiencing it right down here on earth. I'll see you tonight at 7 p.m. My website, www.paulbegleyprophecy.com. Also, new live stream, Roku satellite, Periscope, and even right here on this YouTube channel, Blog Talk Radio. What?
Activity and lava output from Fissure 8 remains low. This morning's overflight crew saw a weak to moderately active bubbling lava lake within the Fissure 8 cone, a weak gas plume, and a completely crusted lava channel. Later in the morning, ground crews found the upper channel largely devoid of lava, confirming that the channel is empty to at least the vicinity of Kappaho crater, where a short section of spiny active lava in a channel was present. Small active ooze-outs near the coast on the Kappaho Bay and Ahalanui lobes, but the lace plume was greatly diminished. Active lava is close to the Pahoiki boat ramp but has not advanced significantly toward it. The significance of this change is not yet clear, and hazardous conditions remain in the area. HVO field crews and the UAS team will monitor activity throughout the day and overnight. It is common for eruptions to wax and wane or pause completely. A return to high levels of lava discharge or new outbreaks in the area of active fissures could occur at any time.
I got a breaking news. This just come out of one of my advisors. We have an asteroid or a comet coming toward the United States, coming toward the Earth from between the 11th and the 15th of August, folks. With all this earthquake and volcano and stuff, just like it used to be when the dinosaurs were here. CERN is pulling everything toward us, and it's getting worse. They got to shut down CERN. If they don't, then we're going to be toast. That's all I can say. You go look up CERN, and it'll show you that it's pulling everything toward us.
YouTube channel. Take a look at this. Kate says this happened 21st, 2018, and she hesitated to post this because she's not exactly sure what exactly happened, but she sat on it and she looked for some news and she hasn't found a thing in regards to this incident. So she decided to go ahead and post this. We're going to supply the original link. Now let's get a closer look at this video, do some analysis of it, and see what we can find here. So it looks like paramedics are approaching somebody on the side of the road, laying in the ice. It's really weird. We're doing a close-up on this pause frame, and it almost looks like this guy has no arm. It's very strange indeed. As the camera pulls to the left, we notice some kind of writing. I do a horizontal flip, and we can make it out. It says, I think, Canon Zoom. Is this some kind of watermark that the park rangers use on their camera that surveys the area? Some people are saying there's a UFO hovering in the sky above the incident. As we're looking at it, it does seem to correspond with the paramedic vehicle below. The ambulance is reflecting and creating this kind of flare. Yellowstone is very active. Some people say it's right around the corner that it might do something big. Yellowstone could be a global devastator, but as we look at this video, you notice a strange light.
"32 states will be involved when this thing goes off. Ash is going to hit 32 states.
And then it drifts out of view. What was that? But immediately there, something is in pursuit of it. Some people are saying this is a park ranger helicopter in response to the incident. Whatever it is, we're not exactly sure. We're going to leave it for you to decide. Take a look. Now it's out of view. There is no more indication of exactly where this helicopter went, but it does seem to have gone in the direction of the UFO. All right, we're going to let it roll here a little bit. See if you see anything strange in the sky or on the ground. Definitely a strange incident, and we're still trying to figure out what exactly happened. Why did the paramedics show up? We don't know exactly what happened, but there has been an incident, and we're trying to figure out exactly what's going on. And I want to get your guys' opinions of what do you think it is. All right, we got more videos coming up. We're going to let it roll and then do a little enhancement again so you can take a look at the UFO activity. Is there a helicopter in hot pursuit of this during this incident in Yellowstone?
No, it's not UFO. It's China's drones coming in there to burn the woods down. So everybody will leave. Just like everybody else has been doing in the West Coast.
Third Facebook, stand by, everybody.
is up, guys? Tyler here with Secure Team. Well, something major has just occurred and is still occurring underneath Yellowstone National Park. Now, before we get into this, I just want to reiterate here that this is not a fear-mongering video. I'm not a fear-monger. However, when I learned of this information, and it's in the mainstream news, and the fact that we just did the interview with Mr. Paulides about all of the strange things happening in our national parks, I wanted to get your guys' take on it and whether there's something deeper going on here. So if you haven't heard the news, over the past week, there has been a major swarm of earthquakes in Yellowstone. In fact, in just a 24-hour period, there were 72 earthquakes in a small localized area. And at this time, researchers are monitoring the volatile zone and have no idea when the current earthquake swarm is going to end. Now, while most of the earthquakes were smaller, there were a few towards the end that started spiking up to magnitudes of around 5.0, which is getting up there. And for any of you who haven't read up on Yellowstone, well, in a nutshell, there is a massive supervolcano underneath it that is long overdue for an eruption that, by the way, is capable of wiping out the vast amount of human, animal, and plant life in the continental United States. And experts are legitimately worried about when this eruption is going to occur. And so scientists currently believe that there's a, quote, 10% chance that a supervolcanic Category 7 eruption could take place in this century, which was even pointed out by theoretical physicist Michio Kaku, who recently stated that the danger we are now facing with the caldera is that it's long overdue for an eruption, which would, quote, rip the guts out of the USA. And we've also found out that the pocket of lava located under the park has turned out to be twice as big as scientists originally thought. And so most scientists today concur that the last eruption of the caldera took place some 640,000 years ago. And the United States is currently under contract with at least 4 countries, all of which have agreed to house displaced U.S. citizens in the unfortunate event that the Yellowstone supervolcano were to erupt. And so with this recent earthquake swarm, well, before it happened, there was sort of a calm before the storm, where seismic activity experienced a downtick and was eerily quiet. And then just a day later, boom, 72 earthquakes within a 24-hour period. They've continued all week, and of course, it's got some people worried, and so we're starting to see news reports about it. Now, of course, most scientists out there are telling us, hey, there's nothing to worry about. There are thousands of earthquakes that occur in Yellowstone every single year, but others, of course, are a little bit more skeptical, with most people highly doubting that if there were such a danger, they would likely much rather not tell us and risk starting widespread panic across the entire country. And, you know, Yellowstone has been shrouded in a strangeness and a mystique of its own. A lot of strange things happen there, and we're talking disappearances, UFO sightings, strange lights, and there's a ton of theories about just what is going on.
Quit with the UFO crap. It's China's drones. They're about to come in and fire up the parks there, too. Let's keep on. The UFOs. Are you kidding me? Next thing you know, you're going to see Mork and Mindy. Nanu. I mean, shit. Shut the fuck up with the UFO shit.
In Yellowstone National Park, particularly the areas that humans are not allowed to go. And we are talking about areas that are more than just roped off from the public, but are heavily guarded by the military in order to ensure nobody enters, almost like they're guarding something. Well, many would say not almost, they are. They're guarding something in there. And of course, there have been talks for years now that there is some sort of highly secret government installation that was built or is continually being built underground in the center of Yellowstone. Now, many people have theorized that a lot of these earthquakes aren't actually coming from this supervolcano and the tectonic plates shifting, but instead are the remnants of massive drills and machinery that are being used underground to dig these massive tunnels and the hollowing out these massive caverns in order for them to install these deep underground bases. And, that was one of the things that me and Mr. Paulides were talking about in the interview, which, by the way, awesome guy. Was so happy to have him on. He's just, he's the type of guy you want to sit down and have a beer with and just chat for hours. He's very good. And I looked at that interview not so much as an interview, but more as an intelligent conversation between two people. Mr. Paulides was very courteous and, wanted to get my take on certain things as opposed to just having me ask questions. And I think that definitely made for a much richer interview. And we were talking about some of the things that could be going on in these national parks. Why are all of these people disappearing every single year? Now, of course, Mr. Paulides kind of likes to sit back and not speculate and would rather have us give our ideas. And, like I said in that video, in a lot of these cases, it almost appears as if many of these people are getting caught up in some sort of portal. It's been said it's like they walk into a portal and then they either disappear and are never seen again, or they reappear miles and miles away. In many cases, these are children who will vanish, and if they ever are found, it's at the top of some mountain peak at a 10,000 feet altitude. With a 2-year-old kid, obviously something had to take him there. He had to have gotten there somehow. And so it's been said that the government, through its operation of these secret bases in Yellowstone, are abducting people or are testing or utilizing some sort of technology that is potentially creating these rifts or portholes or dimensions, whatever you want to call them, where people are literally walking into an area of the woods and disappearing. Or they could simply just be snatching these people up and taking them to these deep underground bases. You guys would be amazed, in the United States alone, how many people go missing every single year. The stats will blow your mind. And unfortunately, the data shows that many of these missing cases occur surrounding or within these national parks and forests, including Yellowstone. And speaking of these alleged underground bases, you guys want to see something really creepy? All right, tell me if this doesn't blow your mind here. What you're seeing is a map that hit the web years ago, which was leaked, and it purports to show a system of underground bases, military bases, secret bases that shouldn't exist, that are actually linked together by a high-speed rail system. So like an underground subway system, so the people who are living and or working at these installations can hop on one of these underground subway systems and within minutes travel hundreds or thousands of miles to these interconnected bases. And what I've discovered is that when taking this map of these alleged bases, we have no real proof that this map is even real. However, when you place it directly over top of this map, which comes directly from Mr. Paulides and shows where these localized clusters of disappearances that have occurred in these different national parks, you find something very scary, in my opinion, which you're seeing here as I fade this map of these purported underground bases in and out, overlaid on top of this map by Mr. Paulides of these disappearances. We see that these localized clusters match up almost perfectly with the large majority of these bases on this map. I mean, just look at this. I'll let it play for a couple seconds. And, all speculation aside, tell me that isn't freaky. Call me crazy, but I definitely think there's something to this, and that these underground bases may be playing a much larger role in these strange happenings and disappearances than we previously could have ever thought. So there really is something eerie going on, and whether this super swarm with these earthquakes has anything to do with what we were just talking about. I don't know. It could be all natural. I can attest, just from the past videos that I've done, there's a lot of stuff that's happened in Yellowstone that cannot be explained. Lights, UFOs, strange sounds. Have you guys heard of something called the Yellowstone Lake music? Well, it continues to be a mystery after almost a century of reports of this really enigmatic sound that thousands of people have reported hearing above Yellowstone Lake, with it happening many instances on clear days and in early mornings. And it's been described as a remarkable celestial sound of an unknown or unexplained origin that, according to those that have heard these sounds, quote, resemble the ringing of telegraph wires or the humming of a swarm of bees, beginning softly in the distance, growing rapidly plainer until directly overhead, and then fading out just as rapidly and in the opposite direction. And these sounds above Yellowstone Lake have been occurring since 1895, when they were first reported. And to this day, there have been countless respected scientists and prominent park figures that have reported hearing the sounds as well. And, you know, it's just one more thing to add to the list of strange stuff happening in this park and in this area. So, hopefully, the super volcano underneath Yellowstone is not going to blow, at least not while we're alive, right? But it is a bit disconcerting when these things happen, you know, and when they do, I don't like to make videos about them because I don't want to trigger anyone. I don't want to be called a fearmonger, but it is interesting, and I want to report on it because I think it's relevant for you guys to know, especially if any of you were planning on maybe visiting Yellowstone. You know, maybe give it a little time before you head out there, just to make sure everything's safe, because again, it's long overdue. We don't know when this thing could erupt. Or, you know, you could find yourself in a situation like those we spoke about with Mr. Polides. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think, and thank you for stopping by today. I've got another video in the making. I hope all of you had a happy Father's Day. You know, to all the dads and fathers out there taking care of their families and being the best people they can be. Keep doing what you're doing, lead by example, and raise those kids right. All right? So, thanks, guys, and I'll see you back in just a bit.
Alright, that was it on that. See if there's any news. It's been really quiet lately during that. Oh, there's James Mattis from Militia Rising. Breaking news, urgent. Sorry, I don't have nothing for that guy. Talking about space junk. I think we have enough of that. Alright, we're going to the next one. Undertaker's coming.
Another Yellowstone eruption.
Uh-oh, Undertaker. Where in the world did he come from? Interesting. I like the storyline that WWE's got going right now. WWE 2K19 comes out October the 18th. I'll be getting the 18th. And I'll be doing more game designs for y'all. Maybe y'all can comment down below and tell me what you want to see me create. If I can create. And it depends on what they put on the game, so I can do it. But breaking news. More breaking news on Yellowstone.
In Wyoming, the European Science Foundation has released a 70-page report called Extreme Geohazards: Reducing the Disaster Risk and Increasing Resilience. It references the Yellowstone supervolcano.
Now, Yellowstone's volcano doesn't look like some others because it's a caldera or a crater. It's around ground level instead of towering into the clouds. But scientists say it covers a really enormous reserve of magma beneath the Earth's surface. We have a rendering of what scientists say this underneath that volcano, an ocean of molten rock, they tell us, that stretches for hundreds of miles. Of course, nobody needs to free erupt. It could be a small incident, not some Armageddon type thing. Michio Kaku joins us now. He's a theoretical physicist, a professor, a best-selling author, friend of the program. Give us some context on this, what we're talking about.
Yellowstone. We're talking about a sleeping Godzilla underneath Yellowstone that if it erupts in a maximum eruption called Category 8, it could literally tear the guts out of the United States of America. Instead of having 50 states of the Union, we would only have 30 states of the Union. Now that's Category 8. This report looked at Category 7, which is much more likely once every 1,000 years rather than once every million years. That means in every century, there's a 10% chance that somewhere on the planet Earth there could be a supervolcanic Category 7 eruption. That's the danger.
You just talked about a volcano that could wipe out 20 states. How in the world is that possible?
Well, it's happened before. 2.1 million years ago, 1.3, and also 0.6 million years ago. We have the evidence of a gigantic eruption that is sufficient to tear the guts out of the US of A. So this report has to be taken seriously, but hey, don't sell the store, don't panic. We don't expect it to happen in our lifetime.
It's hard really to imagine this lake of lava that stretches hundreds of miles in all directions. How do we know that? And how do they read that?
Well, just 2 years ago, there was a scare, in fact. We actually began to measure the size of this lava hotspot, and it turned out to be twice as big as we previously thought. However, the good news is that it's not migrating, it's not moving. We see no indication whatsoever that a big one is coming. However, eventually the law of averages catches up to you. And this report singled out Mount Vesuvius outside Naples, Italy, outside Mexico City, and Yellowstone as three hotspots where a Category 7 volcanic eruption could indeed take place in this century.
So there are only 3 of this size in all the world?
Well, there's several in Indonesia and New Zealand that have had Category 8 eruptions, in fact. But then again, we're talking about once every million years for Category 8. Category 7 will be many times the size of Mount St. Helen, enough to cause widespread destruction across a state, but not enough to destroy the US of A. But still, something that we have to take very seriously now.
What would we get in the way of warnings, Michio?
Well, unlike a meteor from outer space, where you get no warning whatsoever, we get warnings. If you see movies like Pompeii, you know that there are days, in fact weeks, of eruptions building up, grumbling inside, underneath the ground, near the pocket of lava. So there would be enough time, several weeks, in order to begin evacuation if and when such an unlikely event were to take place.
All right, Michio Kaku on the news deck. No time to panic, but interesting, very interesting. Thank you.
Ground deformation is near the Norris Geyser Basin.
No time to panic. Just listen to the fake news. Just keep on listening to them, okay? Because they want you to die anyways. Just keep on.
Hottest and most unstable thermal basin in the park.
Norris Geyser Basin is one of the most dynamic of the hydrothermal areas at Yellowstone. It's always changing. We're always noticing new things that are happening.
Just a few years ago, satellite images showed Yellowstone's greatest rise in this area. Recently, however, it's reversed its direction and is now subsiding.
It's not actually within the Yellowstone caldera, yet it's one of the highest temperature thermal areas in the park. And it is possible that there is some magma extending to the north beneath that region.
The source of the basin's volatility could be magma, or another key component of volcanic activity, earthquakes.
The earthquakes are essentially the heartbeat of the system. They're an integral part of the active, if you wish, mountain building and volcanism of Yellowstone.
Like smoke and fire, volcanoes and earthquakes go hand in hand. The pressure from the magma, which can explode into a volcano, also forces the ground to shift, causing earthquakes. They can be the telltale signs of an impending eruption.
The two main precursors to a volcanic eruption, seismicity and ground deformation, are very carefully monitored in Yellowstone.
In this computer model, each red dot earthquake. Typically, hundreds of earthquakes are detected across the park each year. In recent years, the greatest earthquake activity has been centered under two areas of the park.
Well, you can see we have earthquakes that are concentrated on the north side of Yellowstone coming down through the park and then out extending on the east side of the Teton Fault right here.
What concerns geologists is when a center of earthquake activity overlaps an area of shifting terrain. At the Norris Geyser Basin, that seems to be what's happening. There are dozens of fault lines at this spot.
That's very critical because if magma is starting to move up, we would expect to see a bulging in an area and associated earthquakes as the ground starts to crack.
The fear is faults that make up the earthquake zone could crack under pressure from the magma below, releasing an eruption.
We're here in California. Behold, I never took you for an action sports guy.
You want to save people's lives. If you want to save people's lives, you want to share this. Share all my videos. I'm not asking for money, even though y'all are donating. Thank you.
Geologists are also watching the park's geysers, hot springs, and mud pots, looking for drastic changes in temperatures and chemical content. Anything that might indicate a major movement of magma. At the moment, geologists do not believe an eruption is imminent. But if the water temperatures were to rise, the ground begin to swell, or there were an increase in earthquake activity, another Yellowstone eruption could be building.
I think that we are smart enough as geoscientists now that we would probably have weeks to perhaps months of indicators before anything like that would occur.
However, predicting the precise timing of an eruption is far from simple. Scientists have been fooled in the past.
We've seen it in Yellowstone. There's bulging, there's vibrations, there's increased seismicity. There's all the things one would expect and go, oh, uh-oh, we're in trouble. And then, nothing.
Supervolcanoes like Yellowstone could explode suddenly, without warning, without seismic movement signaled as earthquakes. When we think of an explosive volcanic eruption, we imagine it being preceded by earthquakes, by ground swelling, by the mountain venting some hot gas, perhaps even some lava. These are the signs we look for in the inexact science of volcanic predictions. But two research papers, published on the very same day this year, say that predicting supervolcano eruptions is even more difficult than predicting the eruptions of regular volcanoes. More on that in a moment, but first, do the events in Yellowstone earlier this year demonstrate changes that may be building toward an eruption?
Yeah.
We did have an earthquake of 4.8 magnitude. Now that is the largest we've had in Yellowstone in over 30 years.
And a couple of months later shuts down a road that's melted because of increased ground temperature. People start to get edgy about an impending eruption. I went to Yellowstone recently, and geothermal activity is everywhere. A reminder that you're on top of a super caldera and magma dome, the largest on Earth.
Frankly, we are just a few miles above some really hot magma. That magma serves as the heat that fuels the geysers and hot springs and fumaroles in the park. It's that engine that allows for the unique things that we see here in Yellowstone.
This is what the melted road looks like 2 months later. Yellowstone spokesman at the time said the road had turned to soup, and that was widely reported, even in the mainstream media. But when I spoke to a ranger there, she dismissed it as simply a bad asphalt job. that was closed due to melting to heat?
No, it has nothing to do with that. That was just a couple of days. It was the asphalt was soft. It was actually a bad asphalt job that they had done the summer previous to that.
Okay.
And that combined with the intensity of the sun in the middle of the summer, and that it was in a hydrothermal area, that it just got soft.
Oh, okay.
And they just had to replace it.
So it had nothing to do with an increase in geothermal activity in that area, the
No.
ground being hotter. It was just
No.
the asphalt wasn't.
The asphalt, yeah, it was the combination of those things in that particular spot.
I hadn't visited Firehole Lake Drive when I spoke to her, or I would have challenged what she told me. 2 months later, the road still doesn't look good. But more importantly, Yellowstone spokesman told the press at the time that people needed to stay away from the road because there was a high danger of stepping on seemingly solid soil into severely hot water. Contrary to what she said, Firehole Lake is an active geothermal area, and you can see that the road deteriorates as it comes into proximity to geothermal features. But it's what we've come to expect from government employees at every level: fear for their job if controversy erupts, and contempt for the public's right to know. If it was just a bad asphalt job heated up by the sun rather than increased ground temperature, then why are there other melted paved areas that they've just fenced off rather than try to fix? My suspicion is that the spots are so hot at the moment that they can't fix them. Ground temperature goes up and down with seismic activity in the park.
We see between 1,000 and 3,000 earthquakes a year in Yellowstone. Most of them are so small, nobody ever feels them.
Swarms of small earthquakes that you can't even feel can cause the ground to go through major changes. Look at this area that was once a forest. The ground was a hospitable environment for trees to grow for a long period of time. Then in 1978, swarms of small earthquakes caused the ground in this area to rise to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. It wasn't the quakes, but the heat that killed the trees. So while we may be heading into another period of increased activity in Yellowstone, it's far from the largest activity we've seen since it became a park. Of course, everyone will tell you that it's not if, but when the super caldera blows up.
Yellowstone's supervolcano has been hit by a series of earthquakes, with more 30 recorded since June 12th. The latest was recorded on Monday, June 19th, with a magnitude 3 earthquake striking 8.6 miles north-northeast of West Yellowstone, Montana. The swarm began last week, and on June 15th saw a magnitude 4.5 earthquake take place in Yellowstone National Park. The epicenter of the shock was located in Yellowstone National Park, 8 miles north-northeast of the town of West Yellowstone, Montana. Scientists from the University of Utah, which monitors Yellowstone volcano, said in a statement. The earthquake was reportedly felt in the towns of West Yellowstone and Gardner, Montana, in Yellowstone National Park, and elsewhere in the surrounding region. This earthquake was the largest to have hit Yellowstone since March 30, 2014, when a magnitude 4.8 earthquake was recorded 18 miles to the east, near the Norris-Giza Basin. The 4.5 earthquake is part of an energetic sequence of earthquakes in the same area that began on June 12th, the statement continued. This sequence has included approximately 30 earthquakes of magnitude 2 and larger and 4 earthquakes of magnitude 3 and larger, including today's magnitude 4.5 event. As of June 16th, 235 events had been recorded. Most of these ranged in the magnitude of 0 to 1, with 5 less than 0. The University of Utah is part of the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory, YVO, which monitors volcanic and earthquake activity in Yellowstone National Park. Seismic activity at volcanoes
They say that you never forget your child's first steps. But for me, it was your first steps up the walkway to your new home. I did.
And signal an eruption is due to take place, although predicting exactly when a volcano will erupt is.
You see the calderas left by the magma plume at Yellowstone. So you can see that the Earth's crust has moved across this plume, and subsequent eruptions you can see moving further north as the crust moves in a different direction. The magma plume itself is not what anybody thought. Usually they don't tell us a whole lot about the magma plume, but it's not a ball of magma. And the magma plume is actually not traversing up vertically from depths. It is coming up at a lateral motion from Idaho, where it's deep, into Yellowstone, where it is getting very shallow. This is a diagram showing you where most of the earthquakes are occurring is in this blue zone, where the magma percolates and it starts to separate out and become superficial, closer to the surface, different compositions. But when magma filters through cracks and then percolates back down, it hardens and forms these dikes. These dikes compartmentalize the underneath ground into chambers. The dikes have a tendency to crack and break and fill empty chambers, thereby creating an overflow system for the park itself. And it's not unusual to have new substance come up and form different dikes for different substances of different temperatures and different liquidity. The rhyolite, like I say, this is a rhyolite slab. That is really the big question mark as to how it will behave under this type of structure. These are cracks. They go deep into the ground. They look like honeycomb from the air. Magma fills and seeps in, and then the compartmentalized magma will create a much smaller crater inside the caldera itself. And this is an example of what we're hoping, if there's an eruption, will happen. It'll be a small eruption from one of these chambers. Long Valley is a different story altogether. The central magma chamber is creating all the uplift in this area. It's a central resurgent dome. We don't want that to go. But this explains why Yellowstone is so well behaved. Notice, though, the cylinder is a diagram showing what happens in the convection zone, where there's a lot of churning liquid magma, foaming magma, and water. You get a positive and a negative polarity between the colder and the hotter barriers and boundaries, and that's what gives rise to some of the electromagnetic events that you see surrounding volcanoes and even some seismic earthquakes that do occur in volcanic zones, because we know that seismic zones and volcanism go hand in hand. But this is a really nice structure, really, for notice the rhyolitic magma on the top, and notice at the edges of the caldera is where we have our intrusions. This intrusion spreads out laterally and flattens out. It's not very deep at the 2 kilometer depth. It's rather shallow. That's the rhyolite keeping it down. Don't let ash fields discourage you here. Even in the 600,000 year ago eruption, the tectonic plates and the shifting of the crust has placed things in a completely different arrangement than they were back then. Even the jet stream has changed. So we're predicting a left to right or east to west.
Okay, there's a lot of seismometers placed all around the caldera, and they're just measuring devices. The geology of this area is pretty complex, but the thing to notice is there are some fault zones that go near the surface. This is the part that they're targeting. The thing is, with this huge amount of high pressure magma, if there is ever a breakthrough to the surface, you're going to have a major eruption. And it is just a tiny, tiny crack in the rock, what they call a tornillo, where you have a magma intrusion and then a flow, and once that reaches the surface, basically it's unstoppable. So what kind of thing are they doing here? Here's the fault zone that's been under attack for 2 years. This is dang it, I forget the name of that. They made all three of these. They're attacking 3 sites, and they've got like Maple Lake, Mirror, I forget, darn it. Anyway, this is the equipment, or it's something similar to the equipment they're using. They have a computer-controlled array of this type of device. It's called a vibro-sized truck. This is a 60-ton truck that can press this steel plate down and produce actually earthquakes. And when they're arranged in an array, you have the ability to put these pressure waves into the earth, which I'll show in a minute. And yes, they're absolutely huge. They're used for natural gas exploration because you can actually map the underlying rock.
There's a lot of stuff happening right now, folks, in Yellowstone and in the West Coast and the Pacific on purpose. 9/11 Part 2 is coming. And it's already here. They're just killing people left and right. Don't even give a shit. They don't even care. So you gotta care. You gotta share. You gotta like. And subscribe. I'm gonna be here for another month and a half on this channel, and then I'm gonna go back to the other channel. I'll go back to live on my other channel. They suspended me. I'm having to use this as a backup channel. So thank you for the 7 likes. I love you all. Oh, and by the way, let's see here. This is Tuesday. Might come back around 9:30 if there's anything big happening. There's a lot of stuff that's been happening, folks, and it's getting ugly, folks. I was going to look at something. I noticed nobody was watching. I want to see if this screen's messed up. Shoot. I've seen some people come in, but they didn't stay. It's like they popped in and popped out. I don't know if they're shadow banning me or if you're not seeing what I'm seeing, but it's okay. I'm gonna see what's going on with the camera. No? Good. Y'all gotta keep on subscribing though. This is my backup channel. I love you all. Thank you for subscribing and thank you for the likes. I love you all. Be safe. And whoever you are, thank you for watching.